Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Tuesday, July 31st, 2018, and this is a very special interview that I'm so excited to bring to our viewers because I've personally waited 3 years for it. And to help me with this interview is my co-host, Steve, who's over in Malaysia right now. Steve, thanks for being with us.
Nice to be here, even if I'm in Malaysia.
Yes, but we're going to have so much fun today, Steve. I'm going to just do a little bit of reading, a little bit of background about our guest who is joining us today. We have Fernando Vossa joining us today, and Fernando is a biofuturist, terra healer. He's an activist, a free energy researcher, consciousness scientist, healing technologies, human origins investigator, exopolitics ambassador, and planetary liberator. This is a really incredible background to do what he's doing. And let me just explain a little bit about that. Vossa incorporates a series of accelerated learning protocols, DNA activation, and whole body immersion technologies for kids of all ages to learn universal concepts of free energy, peace for humanity, human potential, healing, infinite creativity, and personal empowerment tools to transform our planet with love and compassion. And these are called engines of mass creation. This gets real fascinating. Stay tuned. This consciousness pioneer is an independent bioarchitect. A bioarchitect, folks, this is something to really get excited about. This is about renewable architecture, renewable products. It's very good. Quantum scientist, inventor, healer, and fine artist. In 2013, he focused on developing a sustainable dome home called the Vossahedron, which we're going to show you today. It's very exciting. The Vossahedron project is an integration of approaches integrating coherent magnetic fields, plasma constructs, harmonic frequencies, and Atlantean crystal grids to establish a sonic architecture that regenerates our body at the cellular level, expands our mental capabilities, and connects us to higher spiritual awareness. This is amazing. A home. Can you believe this? Vossa's approach is through biomimicry principles refined from the study of cactus in Baja California and the practice of sacred geometry found in ancient sites across the world. Vossa's main thesis is to identify efficient geometries that result in architecture that efficiently mitigates heat, cold, sound, light, magnetism, and naturally connects with the earth. Amazing stuff. Uh, so imagine a home that generates its own electricity, harvests water, and grows organic food while being hurricane and earthquake resistant. This is really amazing stuff. I am so excited about this. Inhabitants are shielded from harmful radio, HAARP, cell tower, and various forms of radioactive fallout. This is
What do we need then?
I'm telling you, I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Vossa, he's a very spiritual person here. Vossa experienced his first lucid out-of-body journey through the cosmos at age 8. He has explored ancient archaeological sites in South Africa, researched Mayan cities in South Mexico, and through deep meditation has downloaded groundbreaking technologies from a variety of off-world civilizations. As a technology innovator, Vossa has worked as a program manager at Microsoft, research systems administrator at the Sony Technology Center, and stealth flight control software engineer at General Electric Aerospace. Vossa has participated as co-organizer and speaker at the Global Breakthrough Energy Movement, focusing on the acceleration of free energy solutions. This is where we need to go, folks. After 5 years of investigation, the Vossahedron project has resulted in a series of blueprints, 3D printed models, natural concrete recipes, and a mold process to mass produce the Vossahedron at low cost. This project is ready for deployment as a seed that yields eco-cities for a sustainable civilization. The Vossahedron project entails the launching of new industries, including eco-real estate, We're introducing new words in our vocabulary here. Healing furnishings, advanced wellness products, and the deployment of conscious cities designed to cultivate an advanced human creativity. This monumental building technology is intended as a transporter device that transforms its inhabitants through a journey of regeneration and awakening. Vossa calls his creations stargates of ascension. And without further ado, let me please welcome this very special guest, Fernando Vossa. Thank you so much for joining us on the GoldFish Report.
Louisa, Steve, it is such a breakthrough for me to be on the GoldFish Report because this channel, this has been a place of some of my awakening, some of the disclosure that you've had on this show, the whistleblowers, the futurists. So it is an honor to continue a tradition, and we're going to take it to a new level. The
That's great.
first part we're going to do here is to ask a simple question of the audience. Who are you when nobody's looking? What are you doing with your free time when there is no expectation of what you should be doing? For me, that question is very simple, and it's always been very focused. How do we generate this reality? How are we doing this? How is it that we're manifesting this insanity of a planet, this polarized reality where we have a segment of the population that wants peace? It's a simple first step, a planet in peace. What will it take to do that? Could we hold that idea in our head clearly and say, yes, that is possible? And then there's this entrenched reality of a matrix, of a system that's been around for thousands of years, the source of which is still under debate, how we got into the control system of money and technology and corruption and the endless list. You know, when I visited with Michael Tellinger in South Africa and met with Klaus Donna and von Daniken and the entire set of researchers from Project Camelot, Carrie Cassidy, and so forth, I've had the privilege to interact firsthand with people who are asking deeper questions about this. So my work does one thing. It is a way to connect the dots between the disclosure and the whistleblower movement of what are we finding from the secret space program? What are we learning from researching off-world civilizations and exopolitics, that whole side of things, to the reality of our everyday lives. How is that knowledge going to help me today to eat, to have food, to have energy, to heal my body? So I'm inviting researchers and whistleblowers and those who are also going through their own healing process of abuse because they were abducted, of being trafficked as humans. I've met people who as children, like Andrew Basaju, were part of research programs. And how do we take that knowledge and bring it to something we can use every day? So that's the invitation for today, and that's what we're going to talk about, how to connect those dots. What do you think?
Fantastic.
I think that's a great idea. And I think one of the first things that I thought of when I was looking at your designs was that it's like, I'm so excited. I can't wait to look at them and share them with
How
our
long do we have today? An hour, 2 hours?
2 hours, 2 hours.
All right.
Yeah, we're limited. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 hours. So it's still good, 2 hours. But
that's not limited. That's good.
I know what I wanted to say was, as I was going through, and because we're both artists too, Steve and I are both artists, and the thing about it is that the first thing I thought about as I was going through, and even as I was describing and reading, your description and background, this sounds like a symbiotic relationship between the human and its in its home, and between the dwelling and the inhabitant. Is that a fair characterization?
It's asking a different set of questions. Back in 2012, December 21st, I did a ceremony, like many people in our networks, to welcome this new consciousness and energy, right? And the very next morning, December 22nd, I wake up and I go, what the hell? This is the same reality, more of the same. As a matter of fact, after December 2012, the matrix got even more intense. It didn't back off at all. So I said, well, I have to get to work in a way that I'm focused, I'm manifesting, and I'm bringing real solutions. So that's when I went inside and asked the first question. Could I build a house that would heal my body, designed as a ship that would transport me and its occupants to a new age of humanity. It's like you go into a teleporter, and when you come out, the world is in peace. And that may take years,
Lovely.
decades, centuries, I don't know. But what's interesting is, could I do it in a way that my body and my mind are transformed? So the first thing I did is I said sustainability, as we talk about sustainability, is a psyop. That means that sustainability does not really exist right now as a platform because it's illegal, the first thing that I learned. You can't just generate your own electricity in the middle of Los Angeles and grow your own food and harvest your own water and heal your own
That's where it
body.
starts.
That
That's
is
right.
a criminal activity at the moment.
That's right.
So let's wake up to that reality. So when we talk to architects and engineers and city planners, and we have all these festivals of sustainability, we're celebrating something that we still have not made legal. That's the first step.
That's sad. That's sad too.
The second
It's true,
step
though.
is to understand that what we study in clean energy, and those of us on the inside of free energy, realize that healing the body, all that work that we study of how to work with light and sound and frequencies and geometry, the Tesla's 369, vibration, sound, frequency, it's the same language for free energy as for healing the body. So that gave me a tie-in to what is the physical world of sustainability and what is the mental world of sustainability. How do we develop a sustainable mind that's our friend, that helps us manifest, right? And then the third part of sustainability that very few architects talk about, or much less engineering at schools, the spiritual aspect of sustainability, the spirituality of free energy. How's that language sound now if we start just broadening the bandwidth?
I think we have to have this conversation. We have to use this language because this is where our future is. We cannot sustain ourselves the way we are, depleting the earth of oil, depleting fracking. We cannot continue this. It's not sustainable, right, Steve? I mean,
Right.
you travel all over the world too, Steve.
No.
Many different cultures that have different problems with trying to fight against, this idea of sustainability, because you know what, when you're using biodegradable and sustainable and renewable products, is it as profitable? And the problem is it's not, Fernando. Isn't it a political issue too?
Well, sorry. Let
Go
me
ahead,
just jump
Steve.
in. I
Okay,
think
go
I think the main thing is that what we have is a system that we're living in now that's been created. It's a meme that's been taught to us that's rapacious in it's swallowing up all the resources and it's killing the biosphere. That's the point. And what our friend here is talking about is simply finding a true sustainable model that will live in harmony with not only the planet but the entire universe or the omniverse. And that's I love this paradigm. Keep going, please.
Fantastic. I'm
So
sorry,
the
Fernando.
first
Go ahead.
leap that I made is to go beyond the word sustainability, because that word is one that has been hijacked, just like UFO, just
Right.
like free energy. It's been taken over by a system, and we have this thought about what sustainability is. I don't even want to deal with that. To me, sustainability is 101, the beginning. You should already be there in your thinking. What we want to get to is regenerative architecture, regeneration and rejuvenation. So what would it take to connect this body to its 1,000-year template? This body minimally was designed to last 1,000 years. Most researchers in DNA, in stem cell research, will tell you something has happened to our 24th chromosome that we don't seem to detect, right? So I'm going to do a little screen sharing here.
Oh, very good.
And
maybe you can also explain us this 369 relationship. I know you know this well.
Oh yeah. So let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Living in Baja California, I was definitely surrounded by cactus. This is a San Pedro cactus, I think, from my collection, because I have thousands of photography. And some images I'm just going to skip because we got hundreds of them.
Okay.
So when I did a forensic study of cactus, and why cactus? Because I wanted to go straight to nature. Because the first correlation I made is that healing and energy is the same thing. The idea of radiating heat and cold, mitigating light and dark is part of nature. And if we start understanding the patterns of nature, the same ones that I find in spirituality, the flower of life, the sacred geometry, the chakra system,
Mhm.
suddenly the frequencies that I saw in free energy and magnetics, the same frequencies that I was looking at in researching crystal and light and water, like Dr. Emoto in crystallizing water, I started seeing that there was some immediate one-to-one correlations. This is part of that 3, 6, and 9. The first aspect of 3, 6, and 9 is the physical world, the mental world, and the spiritual world. The energetic world is closer to the mental, to the spiritual world. So I started looking at other work from other bioarchitects who were designing domes. And then the whole idea that dome building has been around for thousands of years. And it seems like right now, the renegades, you might say, the groundbreakers, are proposing new kinds of domes. You know, the new Buckminster Fullers, the George Van Tassels of the world. The vision is that we're not interacting with nature directly. One
Yeah.
thing that I notice when I do work with children in art is that some kids nowadays can't tell the difference between what is digital and what is analog, what is natural and what is artificial
Oh.
intelligence.
Mm.
Isn't that a tragedy right there?
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is an
that's
image
yes, yeah.
from the esoteric world known as the Atlantean Temple of Rejuvenation. These are images that are channeled through
Mhm.
meditation and uh, sketching and eventually refined.
Mhm.
These
Well,
are, go
I
ahead.
see you have a Taurus down here at the bottom,
Yeah,
which
this is a Bashar core,
okay.
a Bashar coil.
Oh.
Bashar is also a channeler that speaks about building this inverted
Mhm.
tone structure. So, is there anything to this language where we have spirituality and consciousness, which I consider consciousness science? It has its rules and it has its forces.
Mhm.
And then we have traditional Western empirical science. And finally, they're crossing over, but it's taking a long time.
Mhm.
You notice the
Fernando, can I stop you? Sorry, can I stop you 1 second? Because there's, I mean, we could talk for weeks. I'm
and I'm
sure,
going
Very
but
faster than
exciting.
you
I
know.
yeah,
told
yeah.
Fernando
But
it
no,
was
no. I just let me just stop you one there. But the analog digital question. Let me stop you one right there. What are your thoughts on that? Because for me, I believe that part of the downfall of our current society is the digitalization, that we're getting separated from the analog, which is our contact to nature. What are your thoughts on the digital analog paradigm?
The first thing to notice, and I have a full workshop on this, I use prism crystals to share what is the difference between digital and analog. And I'm just going to let the slideshow run while I'm talking.
Okay,
So you
okay,
can see these are
wonderful.
all research images from my portfolio
Mhm.
for
sure.
5 years of research on the Vossahedron. The first thing to identify is that digital information is limited. That means that we have to encode
It's
it somehow
finite.
and represent
That's
it.
right.
Analog is infinite bandwidth. When you look at the spectrum of light, when you
Yeah.
study anything in nature, you see that you cannot contain it in a computer. If you
Right.
have a prism in your hand and light comes through it and you have a little rainbow at the end, there's no computer on earth that can store the information going through that crystal at the moment because it is infinite bandwidth. The second
Right.
thing is to note that the digital world is contained inside the analog world. It's like the difference between the mind and the soul. The soul contains reality, and the mind is just a small construct of the soul. And the body is even a smaller, limited construct of an unlimited system. So,
But is it
first thing,
holographic though? Is it
what's that?
holographic in that the small? Is it holographic in that a small portion will reflect the whole?
Yes, but holographic is still analog and it is still infinite. A hologram
Right.
has infinite information in it
Quite
because
right.
it's quantum and multidimensional
Isn't that
information.
fractal? It's fractal though, isn't it?
It's
Fraction. Yeah.
holofractal. Holo.
Holofractal.
And the design I'm going to be showing you is holographic and fractal. So as I was going through my research, looking at specific frequencies, multiples of 369, 432 hertz,
Mm-hmm.
then I studied what does it take to place the human body in the stasis mode? Could I be in a house that is neutral? Because if you were in fight or flight syndrome, you're not healing. You know, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden are some of the scientists that talk about this. That
Yes.
while we are defending ourselves from corruption and survival and contamination of our food and our mind and everything, we are not in growth mode. We're in war. We're always at war. That's why we're addicted to coffee. We're addicted to amphetamines. We're addicted
It's the flight,
to
the
That
uppers.
is
That's right.
the vicious cycle. How do you stop that?
Yeah.
Right? Because in the moments where I've had clarity in nature during a psychedelic journey, I noticed that I was able to go into astral travel in 15 minutes in meditation when I'm what we would consider clean.
Wow.
But if I'm doing my regular day, I have to work with clients, and then I'm dealing with the city and transportation and gas and all that, it might take me a month before I could actually have a moment of clarity. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and
It
of
is.
course, and Steve, we've talked about this too. We're both in locations where we're near antennas, we're near these, these towers
We're in
emitting,
cities.
transmitting. We're near cities where they're transmitting frequencies, and we're kind of battling this all day. It makes it very hard, whenever you're in near a city to kind of.
We're all bombarded by everything.
Right.
Humanity. Yeah, that's right. This is.
So I stuck in an image.
Fernando.
This is a fractal heat sink for electronics. It's an experimental thing. You attach it. It's very tiny. It's probably about the size of a dime. You put it on a circuit board, and it radiates the heat away from a microchip. And for us who are into free energy, we know that computers are the most inefficient form of electronics there is. As soon as something radiates heat, you're just wasting energy.
You're wasting it.
Is someone tweeting back there? I'm sorry. If there's a tweet going,
there's a bird. There's a bird here.
Bird there.
Is it mine or I have birds?
No. It's where I am. Where I am.
Oh, it's you, Steve. Okay.
I also have nature, so you might hear it.
Okay, good. Okay.
So the dots, the clarity started coming to me in my work when I started seeing this is fractal wiring. It's a new way to create electronics that break up the signal in fractal proportions like the human body.
Can we see your face while you're talking? Because we haven't passed any new images yet. So I just want to, I don't like the screen to stay static too long. So if we could just look at you while you're talking, that would be great. Okay.
All right.
If you want to flip through pictures, that's okay. But I don't like to keep it static because then we can't see your face.
I understand. Thank you for that. So the first thing I noticed in my research, and I'm talking about 20 years, I studied architecture at University of Washington and advanced concepts in urban design. And I also studied cognitive science with a specialty in visual perception and artificial intelligence. I worked in advanced systems in artificial intelligence and virtual reality simulation, all of this nerd tech, right? Artificial, but it opened up the world that we still have no clue how we're doing this. We don't know how we're manifesting this reality. The architecture doesn't answer that question. Cognitive science doesn't answer. Philosophy doesn't answer that question. All of Western science can't deal with the fact of manifestation. That's what I wanted to get. So I'm one of the few architects that I know who has a master's and hasn't built one house. How's that?
That's amazing.
I didn't want to build concrete boxes. I didn't want to participate in that. I came here to transform this entire planet with my work. One example of any art that I create is design, as Louisa mentioned, an engine of mass creation. And it is built out of the science, the most advanced technology on earth to me that'll give us free energy and healing is love and compassion. So I wanted to know, is there a mathematics of love and compassion? Is there a notation that we can include in our drawings? We imagine that when you go buy a house and the real estate agent of the future shows you the cymatic blueprint of the house. It shows you the magnetic blueprint of the house.
Steve,
that's amazing. No, he's talking about language. I tell you, the cymatic. No, look, I just stop you there. Keep going.
I'm going to show you some of those for the Vossahedron. So I'm going to go back to share screen for a moment.
Yeah.
And I'm going to.
I can pull up those slides. You want me to pull up those? I have a really great. Can I pull those?
Oh yeah.
You can
go ahead.
All right, let me do that because I want to.
If they're the same ones.
All right, go ahead.
You know what? They're definitely his for sure. And I wanted to. This is fascinating stuff. I just can't wait. So
what about if we? While she's bringing that up, what if we have a monitor, a heart rate monitor, a blood pressure monitor, a galvanic skin response monitor when you walk into a house? Your body will tell you if that place is toxic. Ooh. All right.
Ooh, look
That
at
looks like a cactus base. I mean, there's 60-degree angles, 30. What's the thing with the 60-degree angle?
Mhm.
That is the Vossahedron dome. That's the
Yeah.
fully rendered
Right.
3D model that it took a lot of work to get to that shape. It's a
Wow.
brand new geometry on the planet. It's like bringing a brand new hydra
Yeah.
to the planet.
So
Fernando,
that doesn't exist in nature. That does not exist in nature.
It does not exist in nature right now.
but it's inspired by nature, isn't it?
It is inspired by natural intelligence.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I just want, just for the record, I have a friend of mine who's an architect, and he is, you know, a real, you know, he's worked for AT&T, Bristol Myers Squibb, you know, all the top corporations doing all the laboratories, all the buildings and stuff like this. But his own work is very, very different. And when I sent this to him, he loved it. And let me tell you, he's not somebody who
Thank you.
is really easy to please. He's because he's a, you know, he's a Frank Lloyd Wright at heart. You know, he's a real he really loves architecture for the art of it. You know what I mean? And so this he appreciated because he's also very spiritual, and he got it. And I just wanted you to know that,
Thank you.
because
Thank
it's
you. I'm
really a
honored.
compliment. Yeah, no, you really should be if you knew him. But
So one of the pieces of disclosure for our audience that they probably already know because I'm preaching to the choir,
Mhm.
corporations of the planet and military organizations and governments, those three branches have the worst talent as far as free energy and a futurist thinking. Isn't that a tragedy?
Well, it's about suppression. They don't
Yes.
want to
Yes.
release the true
Exactly.
information. It's control and
If I hear
suppression.
Tesla
Maintain the paradigm.
Motors, if I hear about these
Yeah.
Dubai
It's a
presentations,
distraction. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
already know they
Yeah.
don't have the most advanced technology.
That's
To
right.
us, what they're showing is a tin can with string on it.
Right.
That's right.
Large Hadron Collider is a tin can with string made
That's
by
right.
sick individuals
Yeah.
that don't want to deal with love and compassion.
Hmm.
That's
You
right.
know?
Look at
And
this.
I'm
So,
calling these things as I see them nowadays because I
uh-huh.
used to just back off and no. We have to let scientists know that we do not agree with what they're doing, and we don't agree with them dedicating their
Quite
lives
right.
to building weapons. It is
It's a
no
waste
longer
of space.
cool or okay.
That's right.
This is not
Absolutely.
the project to build another Trinity bomb. This is something to heal the world.
Fernando,
So
if
I'm
we could,
Walk us through the Vossahedron.
hold on a second. Could you just put your microphone still a little bit closer to, because you do still feel a little bit distant from it. It's a little bit harder to hear.
right here.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
better.
okay.
That's better.
Just if you want to bring it up to a little, you know, it's okay if it's in the camera. It doesn't really matter. They really just want to see.
I like microphones.
Steve has this intimate relationship.
How's that? Is that
That's
better?
that's great. That's great.
He's been cozy
All
with
right.
them for
Plus,
most
I'm
of his
very
life.
energetic, so sometimes it's hard to keep me. And I'm wearing, I just came back from Peru, and I'll be showing some pictures later.
Okay.
This says no a la corrupción. This is a banner that I
No
wore
corruption,
at a
baby.
demonstration in front of a lineup of police
Wow.
in Peru because corruption right now is getting taken over by a tsunami of visionaries all over the world. Good, I say, good riddance. Let it happen.
Yeah,
That's right.
very much so. Good for you. And I'm glad you're wearing that. Thank you. And look at this design. And also look, the surface area. This is, you know what, this reminded me of the brain. Not that it was identical or exact, but the fact that in order to increase the surface area, you have these little gyros, you have these little, you know, you have a geometry that allows for greater surface area, but in a smaller area, a smaller space.
One of the
What are the
beautiful
cymatics of
things
this?
that sacred geometry does is it solves thousands of problems in architecture immediately.
Ooh.
How's that?
What you're looking at, that 12-star pattern that fits perfectly in what's known as the flower of life, has
Right.
6 major triangles and 6 smaller triangles. And there's a rotation of 60 degrees. This whole structure is a 3, 6, and 9, repeated over and over and over. What that does, 3, 6, and 9, the proportion of the big triangle compared to the small triangle in this footprint is the square root of 3. For those who may know something about this, Tesla's calculations for his circuits use the 3, 6, and 9 because Tesla
Right.
didn't use positive and negative circuits. He used circuits with 3 components. There were 3 things in his to have free energy, and one of them was quantum. That means that electricity would travel from one place, go to a quantum state, come back, and keep traveling through the other circuit. That's what this house does. It creates a circuit. As you go around, it goes up, down, up, down, up, down. It's a wave. It's a heartbeat. So if you
So
were to
it's
walk,
It's
right?
like it's scalar, you're saying. It
Right.
relies on scalar. Okay, because it's not like direct current or alternate current.
No,
We're
this is
talking about scalar.
what
Yeah.
this does is it creates an acupressure point on the surface of the earth where it starts pulsing a particular frequency. Pum, 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 pum. It's telling the earth something is alive here. It's like planting a tree
Mhm.
or taking your shoes off and grounding. The earth recognizes this structure.
Right.
So one of the things that happens with this, if
The
you,
floor
yeah,
plan.
go ahead, show us.
Yeah.
This structure has 60 degrees angles facing inward, and outward are all the 90-degree angles. That is a brilliant, brilliant thing to me. It
Mhm.
solves a lot of issues because 90-degree angles are the worst reflections for life right now.
Mm.
Nature does not have 90-degree angles traditionally in plants, in trees, in cells, you know? Isn't
Mhm.
that curious? Not
What
even
is
in crystals.
what is the space here? Like if you're standing at the kitchen cooking, are you stuck in a corner, or do you really have space here to do your cooking? Are you
It
like
is
backed up
wheelchair
against a ledge or
accessible
something?
everywhere.
Whoa, that's
Yes.
important
The
too.
whole house is wheelchair accessible. You
Wow.
can ride your wheelchair all the way around. The only thing is getting up the stairwell. It's a
Right.
two-story, three-story structure if you want.
Hmm. Amazing. Let's keep looking at this. And you
Now,
said
I
like a
wanted to let
dome.
people know that that star pattern is
Okay.
also a shield
Hmm.
that blocks out HAARP frequencies, cell phone, Wi-Fi. You can't get MK Ultra in this structure. It's a stealth mode. It reflects it back, or it's invisible to that. It just kind of goes over your dome.
So
Steve,
cell phones do not work within this structure.
No, they're not. It's not meant to unless you
yes.
force the signal inside,
Mhm.
which I don't recommend. And we're going to talk about that in a
No,
minute.
no,
Why
no.
not?
There you
This
go,
is
Because
Steve.
fascinating.
Steve, this is
So
what
it's a Faraday cage, a natural Faraday cage.
it is a natural shield, not a Faraday cage. It
it doesn't
grounds
act
things and
like
Oh,
reflects them
oh, it
back.
grounds things.
Yes.
oh.
Go ahead. If you
Uh,
can keep scrolling if you like.
yeah, I'm just taking notes, you know. This
So
is
do the so Fernando, do
okay.
the different areas within the dome, do they have different aspects or qualities?
Absolutely. There are different places where you can stand because if you look at a seed of life pattern with the 7 circles or a
There are
flower of
different
life,
intersections and
it's like a
spaces.
pyramid. Anywhere you stand has a different resonant frequency. So your
Yes.
bathroom
Right.
in one of those triangles is different than your bedroom. It's like being inside a crystal inside this house.
So you
Okay.
haven't got a full scale model of this yet. You haven't got
We have built 3 foot is the biggest dome that I've built so far.
right.
3 foot in
Okay.
diameter. This one's 30, 32 feet in diameter. 33
Right.
to be exact.
Okay.
And so why aren't so what's wrong with not wrong, I'm sorry. What's wrong with
What's wrong?
commercial development that domes are, you know, that they're not, you know, even domes made of other materials, you know, the dome seems to be so much more efficient. Why is it discouraged?
Well, the first thing is it's like me trying to describe Facebook when people don't even have never seen the internet.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
how many architects do you know are talking about healing the human body and the mind
right.
and the
Right.
spirit
I
at the
don't know
same
anybody.
time?
Let's keep going because
Right?
here's another photo of it, and it looks
Yeah,
really, really, you know,
these are different angles and they're
right.
hexagonal windows. The windows are a technology. They have 2 layers of glass. There's a particular color filter on the glass, and you can open them uh,
Oh,
without letting bugs in.
uh-huh.
The shading is a particular angle, so the sun hits all those windows at a particular time of the year.
Mhm.
So the sun goes in through one
It's an
window and
astronomical clock.
the heat doesn't
Yeah,
stay in the house. What's that?
it's
It's
like
an astronomical clock.
It is a chronometer for sure.
whoa,
And we're just talking about the shell.
amazing.
Now, in architecture, if you can create a shell of a building
Hmm.
that you can assemble in a week or less,
Hmm.
that balances the heat and cold and thermal mass and light and dark without an air conditioner, without any light bulbs, without uh, adding technology, there's no wiring in these walls and there's no pipes for the water. That's a big thing.
Yeah, can't wait to get to the trees. We're gonna get to the
What's the
trees.
material? What's the material
Yeah.
that you're going to use?
And when I got back from Peru, I had a little bit of a shift in weather, so I'm still getting used to it with my throat.
Okay, no
It is
problem.
made out of a type of hempcrete with biopolymer. That means that it is
Hempcrete polymer.
a foaming organite. It's 3 different things is the first part of the formula of the concrete. It's made
Wow.
out of volcanic ash,
Hmm.
limestone,
Mm.
natural fiber, and a foaming agent, a plant-based foaming agent that makes it have little micro bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
So when it dries, it's fully insulated. No
Yeah.
termites, no mold can get in there,
Mm.
and it doesn't need any rebar. How's that? No,
This is
no metal reinforcement.
this looks like an
Right.
alternative design here, or maybe just a
That's a
single story.
1,700 square foot, a big one I call the Vossahedron,
Uh-huh.
like a ship.
Right. This one looks larger. And
These are
I was
different
just
studies. That's some of the very first 3D models that I created. I
right.
even made some handmade structures.
Did you have use stereolithography to create that model?
That one was an X-Acto blade and foam core board.
Okay. And now later on, it looks like you had like either 3D printer, or what I
I
knew
use a 3D printer.
as stereolithography, but it's called a 3D printer today. But it was
Yeah.
called stereolithography.
I remember that.
Yeah. When
Using the resin.
Yeah, I used to make facial prosthetics, and that's what they would do some of the initial molds in for more of the bigger work.
So that's one of the original cactus used in the design.
Yeah.
And when I started looking at those cactus,
Mhm.
and I brought probes to measure the magnetic fields, the electric currents, the temperature in different parts inside and outside the cactus. And I realized that they have a toroidal current going around them. They build a toroid, and anywhere that there's little spines, those little thorns have little electric fields, magnetic fields around them. The cactus is a free energy device. It develops a current, and you can light LEDs on a cactus.
Get out. Are you serious?
I'm very
Steve, that's
serious.
amazing. Oh my gosh. But it's brilliant. It has to be brilliant. And of course, what about, okay, do you remember the Oregon generators that would help seed, that would help the farmers who were in drought, and it would
Right.
help seed, cloud seed, so to speak. Is this kind of using the same, is this using Oregon energy? Or
It is a collector of orgon, is known as orgonite,
right.
which has powdered quartz and other organic material. But one of the things I noticed with cactus is they always have an area around them of clearing. There's no plants growing right next to the cactus. All the
Why is
plants
that?
True.
because it creates an
A
electrochemical
field.
field to
Yeah.
keep bugs away, to keep
Protective. Right.
because it also balances the moisture
Mm.
available in a space. These
Ah.
plants don't just grow randomly. They create a fractal pattern.
Mhm.
To me, they're some of the most advanced forms of plants.
Well, I mean, look, they have to
That's why they
survive.
can survive in the desert. That's right.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
They
in
can survive
Arizona
in
desert,
every
man,
climate. There are
it's a hot
cactus
desert
in
out
the
there.
frozen tundra in Alaska. There's cactus in the rainforest. They
Whoa.
just look different.
Right.
Oh, yes, of course.
Is that because of the geometrical forms? Is that they create a field through their geometric shape? Is that correct?
That's one of them. The way they can mitigate heat,
Mm.
the way they channel water, store it,
This is big. Mhm.
and the way they manage their relationship with other plants and other animals around them.
Right.
They're like little spaceships
Wow.
and they grow. When it rains, they get fat. When it's dry, they get skinny.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
an
Yeah.
accordion shape.
Mhm.
And I noticed the color of the cactus, a very specific
Changes,
range
yeah.
of green.
Yeah.
It's a natural filter. So when I started using that same tone of green in my 3D printed models
Mhm.
and in my
Right.
clay models, I
Mhm.
noticed the way the temperature, it could be 120 outside, and
Wow.
inside the cactus, it was cool.
Wow. And look at this is a very large one, and you can see how it's gives you privacy. It's, does this affect the energy inside of it, or does it affect the resonance? How is that calculated? Because you want some open areas, you want your living room and dining room open, but
As
you
an
don't.
architect, I was looking for an integration of what people
Mm.
don't like about domes, because there's some things that they
Yeah.
don't like. For example, the
The
round
Buckminster Dome.
aspect
Yeah.
of them,
It's difficult.
it's difficult to place furniture. Traditional furniture designed for flat walls, your bed, storage inside domes wasn't as prevalent. So like closets to store stuff, moisture, sound
Tricky.
issues, construction issues. Those are kind of things that I started looking to solve with this design. So
That was one of my questions. I mean,
Yeah.
the acoustic properties with the domes, they obviously they reflect, especially with the perspex or the glass that they use, it reflects the sound incredibly. well, which makes it very noisy inside. What are the reflective properties of your material and the shapes? How do they react to acoustics?
Especially when you want to use the loo and you flush the toilet and everybody in the dome hears you.
Yeah, they know what's going on. That's right.
Well, what if we are able to have microclimates of sound as much as temperature and light and electricity? Because the way these angles are, it creates a field of sound within a tight area. But if you stand on the other side, you won't necessarily be able to hear it. So
you're saying it's divided within your structure into acoustic pockets. Is that what you're saying?
What this geometry does for free is it creates fractalized versions of heat and cold, light and dark, all kinds of energy, sound. When you fractalize something, you keep the whole as a structure. Like when you fractalize a forest, you still are looking at an organism of trees, but somehow they're one thing.
Yes, of course.
Really divided up. Nature fractalizes problems. That's how it creates free energy.
Okay. So are you saying that like each little subunit,
the bedrooms, the bathrooms,
and I'm just going to call them a subunit. Each subunit creates its own little homeostasis.
Each little subunit has its own magnetic field, its own sound field, and its own electric field.
Yeah, that's part of the whole.
Generates electricity in the walls radiantly. That means if you put an LED bulb next to the wall, it'll go on. But if you put your finger or tongue, test it, it won't hurt you because it's the same frequency as your body. It's part of you. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, this is
amazing.
Steve,
amazing.
Steve, we have to change our vocabulary here, Steve. A little bit.
Well, this is mind expanding, I tell you.
It sure is.
As a free energy researcher, I wanted the free energy to be in the walls. I didn't want a separate generator somewhere making electricity that you still have to run through an existing cabling system. I thought that was...
So you just attach your LED light to the wall that lights up.
Yes.
So let's talk about this.
But I wanted to share. Oh, go ahead, Louisa.
Yeah, this is different times of the year. The path.
We're using different kind of electricity here. This is not a 60 hertz alternating current. This is a continuous current that runs that in relationship to your body. So if you walk into your house and you're angry and stressed, the house helps you relax.
Reacts to it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But on the principle of Dr. Emoto, though, if you walk into this house with if you possess low vibrations, what's going to happen to the house?
Possessed.
Yeah, if you're possessed. No, really, if you have possessed.
Don't go in.
Yeah. Now, what will happen to the dwelling if the person inside is negative and has a very, let's just say, service to self, very kind of selfish
frequency.
Yeah, and low frequencies, but very service to self and very I would say just basically that kind of frequency, which is very different than the higher frequencies of gratitude, love, joy, things of that nature. Just based on Dr. Emoto's work, and that you've already mentioned, what would happen? What's the interaction going to be? Is the house going to is it going to
react to it?
Yeah, right. How will it react? What will happen?
Well, as soon as you approach your house or one of these structures, it is a geometry that's so unique. You're looking at something that is an impossible structure. So
I want like your sunlight's on you. I want to see your face.
No,
Sorry, go ahead and keep talking. Go ahead.
When you look at a pyramid that's built to precision or an ancient monolith, you're experiencing something, because it's not just your eyes. Your entire body is experiencing Stonehenge, a crop circle. You're looking at an impossible thing that is telling you know nothing about your reality. What happens there is that when you step into this house, the polarity of your body is inverted. The cell charge is inverted from positive to negative. Not the good, bad, but the electric charge of negative is actually good. Because when your plasma in your blood, the cells are charged negatively, that means that viruses and bacteria are not attaching themselves and sticking to the wall surface. The second thing that happens is blood flow increases. The metabolism changes from acidic to alkaline. So you go from fight
Wow.
or flight, parking your car, walking into your house, not knowing why you're so relaxed, because the noise of the world is not inside your house. So that's part of it. The second thing is those little 60-degree angles inside the closets and the walls are like bows on a ship, like an icebreaker. If anger, if yelling, if stress itself encounters these bows, they fractalize that wave and bounce it back to you in 432 hertz increments of harmony. You're hearing the anti-stress energy of yourself. If you
Wow.
just sit quietly in your house, you'll start feeling beautiful, relaxed. Just the fact that you know it's doing it, you know?
Wow.
So if I were to invite a demon-possessed person to my Vossahedron, they're just going to run away. The demon's going to run away. It's going to be scared away by these forces. I like it.
The
I like
house
it.
is going to scare the demon.
That's right. He'll be exorcised.
To a dark entity, structures that were designed by heart-based intention have a charge to them. That's why crosses for vampires have
That's
scientific basis to them, you know, even in consciousness science. So how about if the whole house is a Merkaba field that contains your light body? For my research, the light body can be measured. The strongest fields, the heart math fields coming out of your body can be measured about 15 feet away.
Right.
So I wanted to create a structure that was a shell to contain your light body, your Merkaba field, and amplify it while you're inside. It's like wearing a spacesuit.
It's like
so when are we going to build one of these things, Fernando? We got to build one of these things. When's the first one planned? I'm sold. When's the first one planned?
It's very exciting now. Everybody calm down.
We are building one. I could be building one right now with the correct funding. We're talking, it's a package funding of $333,000 to build the entire project, the team, construction equipment. We're going to have a mold manufactured that you can pour this hempcrete into it and pull the mold away, and the dome is there. That whole program is that. The domes themselves are going to take about a week to build and about a month to build out the complete furniture, essential oils, light, prisms, everything. They're going to cost maybe about $5,000 to $10,000 for the shell, and maybe about $15,000 to $20,000 fully built out with everything. Eventually, I would like them to be free. You know, the government, corporations, the wealth, it should provide free housing.
They should be funding it. They should be funding it. Exactly.
Right.
Look. What's the tensile strength of your material? Can you build like huge houses, like huge sizes?
What's the limitation? Sure.
1,500 kilograms per square inch is the most.
So it's like
go up to 3,000, which is load-bearing concrete. You want to talk dirty, right, Steve?
It's all right. So it's strong.
How many newtons of force would it take?
No, you can build large buildings.
And the city wants to tear it down, and they bring one of their excavators, it'll break the hydraulics on the excavator, because it is like trying to crack a carbon fiber shell.
Amazing.
Go ahead,
That is amazing.
Go to it, tear it down.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff, Steve. I know you can't wait to get one. I can't.
So we have several sites already picked out. Baja California has at least 6 locations, all the way from San Felipe all the way to Los Cabos. We treat that like a big private island. We have locations in Sedona, Mount Shasta, Maui, Hawaii, Bosnia, Peru, New Zealand, Australia. Those are some of our prototype sites that we've got picked out.
What about the positioning of the building? Sorry,
we're just going to go back. You can keep talking, but here I wanted to just go back, and if you had any comments, Fernando, you want to make, go ahead, Steve. You can ask the question.
Positioning of the structures. If we were to position them on ley lines or nodal points, would that make a difference? You're saying that it sends a pulse to the earth,
because these can either be a transformer or a capacitor. It's a piece of electronics, by the way. It's
multifaceted.
So when you build 3 of these in a triangle, and I have those images of that's the trinity. It takes 3 Vossahedron domes to build the free energy, the gray water, black water filtering system as a node. That means we don't centralize electricity anywhere. We don't centralize water treatment anywhere. It's in your house. It's done in your kitchen, in your bathroom, right there. That's a huge leap in sustainability for architecture.
So what you're talking about is if we link a network around the world along nodal points, that will create an energy, free energy within that system. Is that
If
what
you
you're
build
saying?
a neighborhood of 144 domes, it has enough electricity to power an entire city.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, here you are studying around the world. You're holding up the water. Tell us about this. What you
These are
have?
images from different conferences,
Mhm,
going to South Africa to visit the ruins of
mhm,
200,000 years ago using crystal stones
mhm,
in circles, measuring the geobiology. That's the
mhm.
instruments that measure the radiation and frequencies
I
from
see right
the
here. I'm
surrounding.
circling. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
circling that. What kind of instrument is that? That's interesting.
that is made by a company called Gigahertz in Germany that measures frequency
Hmm.
in different bandwidths. If you notice, it looks like an antenna with a triangle. So
Right.
you can detect the radiation and the interference coming from
Mm.
the electric cable lines underground, or you can tune it to find where you put it next to a plant and it'll tell you which flower is putting out the most electricity or bringing it in. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Which part of a cactus, right? Because the root
And
system of a
you've tested
cactus,
this within the dome,
I I use that to detect if there's radiation and
right?
contamination. And it
Right.
also helps me prove scientifically that what I'm saying is not bonkers.
Hmm.
Plants are
Yeah.
healing themselves. Plants are generating their own electricity and they're communicating with each other with a quantum field that I've yet to
Yeah.
describe.
Okay,
That's
That's how
we
right.
that works.
talked about this. I think there was some, look at all this, folks. I'm going to post this link in the description section of the video so our viewers can take their time going through this.
I wanted to describe this little piece right here a
Yeah.
little bit. Go up a
Should I
little
go
bit.
back up a little bit? Yeah, right
Yes.
here.
Those
Uh-huh.
three types of architecture we're talking
Hmm.
about.
Hmm.
The first intention of bioarchitecture in the future is the physical healing of the body. That means that the water system of the house, the materials it's made out of, the siding
Hmm.
are designed with compassionate architecture from the beginning. The second part is the mental, emotional aspect of architecture. How do we create relaxation and creativity and happiness architecture? What are the shapes for happiness architecture? If
Hmm.
you're not even thinking about that in your designs, you
Hmm.
gotta go back to, I don't know, because I don't know what they're teaching in architecture schools. Not this. The
Mm.
No, they're
third
not
part
teaching that.
is
No, no, no.
But
This is what's been missing all these
hold on,
years.
but look at this. What's the frequency of this one from? I know this is from Dr. Emoto's study, probably, right, Fernando?
that is exactly a cymatic study. That's not Dr. Emoto right there.
Okay, but this
Um,
is this resonance is what? What's the frequency?
432 hertz.
Okay, so this is
in
432.
six in six modules. Do you see that has a six symmetry?
Yes.
And
One,
on the
two, three,
right
four,
side is
five, six.
it's a picture of the Vossahedron wireframe on the red star is a 12 frequency.
Aha. Okay.
And toward the bottom you see more cymatics, and on the
Right.
far
Yeah.
left is the model of the toroidal field.
Right. The model of the toroidal field,
We
exactly.
don't we have to measure it still and prove.
Right.
Right now
So
it's
your structure generates a toroidal field. That you're saying,
yes.
So, but
right?
but you know the frequency of love, though. Love is a frequency of what?
Is six.
Five. It's 530. It's
528.
528.
I mean,
Right.
there's
Yeah,
different multiples of it. It's like a piano.
that's right.
So the house,
Harmonics. Yeah.
the other
Harmonics.
thing I wanted to mention is that footprint is a crop circle. The house is on top of a crop circle. It's its own
Mhm.
It's its
energetic
own crop circle.
Right.
footprint.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I have a crop circle in the upper right-hand corner there.
Exactly. And I've interviewed Patty Greer. Lovely Patty. Love
Oh, she's
Patty.
amazing. Yes,
Isn't she?
we've
Isn't she?
connected. I respect her work greatly. She uh, she deserves a bigger platform.
She sure does. No, I tried to encourage her. She didn't belong where she was, but she knows she's good. It's the Earth creating these patterns, these frequencies, and so.
It's a
But what?
dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what she discovered in her work. I thought that was fantastic and amazing.
And
Um,
I invite Patty Greer and others to say, how do we use this knowledge in everyday life? And this is the example that I'm showing you is how I did it. I took crop circle frequencies
mhm.
of studying over, hundreds of them. And of course, I still have to be there when one is created live. That's on my bucket
Ooh,
list.
yeah,
And I
tell
believe
me.
Patty has it
Yeah,
too.
I know. That was
So
all of our bucket list. Yep.
how would it be to live in a crop circle is the question. That's
Uh,
what this house is.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. You see, but Steve, so something that Steve said before that you'd commented on was like what would happen? See, we know that major churches and cathedrals were built on ley lines, and because they do satanic
They
worship
kept them. They kept
in
them, and
the
they
in the basements. This is where all
That's
the
right.
child trafficking and sacrificing
Feeding
goes on.
negative fear into the
Sorry,
grid.
people, in case you didn't know, that's what
Yeah,
happened.
of course. Wake up.
So
Well,
it's like what they're doing is they're hijacking the energy of the ley lines. They're creating a negative.
Of the planet.
Yeah, they're trying to foster and harvest, I would say too, this negative energy through the ley line system, which is like the vein system in our body, the ley line system, right? Isn't that right? So it's kind of like, but if you were to put these Vossahedron homes along all of these nodes, it would be like a lymph system, kind of clean that energy out, wouldn't it? And it
absolutely.
would kind of just purify it, wouldn't it?
It not only changes the minds of the people that see domes or live in them,
Mm.
but also we're inverting a lot of the principles that they teach in architecture, including Frank Lloyd Wright. And one of them is responsive architecture. We're taught that you have to create architecture and designs that respond to the surrounding environment, that respond to the context. I'm going the opposite direction. I'm saying bring in architecture that transforms the surrounding, transforms, and the earth responds to it and nature responds to it. Because when you put one of these domes in a neighborhood, you put it in a desert, nature will form itself around it because it is nature. It'll create its own interference field of the matrix. How's that for thinking?
It's amazing. Look at the
Fantastic.
blocks here. Now these are the hempcrete. It says Inca block.
These were interlocking blocks that have glass in them, recycled glass.
Okay.
What's the glass do?
It is a silica component that resonates at its own frequency.
Right. Different property.
Like when I went to Machu Picchu stone blocks are all resonating at the same crystal frequency.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's amazing. And here, what do we have here?
I started early on, even before I built the Vossahedron, something called HAARP. It's a project to study healing art as an installation that you can live in. And so I visited master dome builders like Cosme Fabian in Mexico. He's one of the top bioarchitects on the planet. He's the gentleman in the far right on the glass in this picture below us.
Okay.
This is one of the domes that he built in Chihuahua, one of the most, you might say, crime neighborhoods where drug trade, murders, all things are going on. He built a dome there and showed and proved
it reduced the
consciousness.
Wow.
Incredible.
It's kind of like the effect meditation has for group meditation, like or mass meditation on a certain
Maharishi effect.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
There is you can't see it in this picture, but across the street from this dome is one of those giant cell phone towers. And you go inside that dome and 90% of the frequencies are blocked out by the dome.
Oh man, we need one of these.
And this is a Cal Earth technology, the one made with the sandbags.
You know, you really have to invent something for people living in cities that they can augment their apartment with, because it is bad when you're in a city and you're around all these high level, high powered frequencies, electromagnetics, and it really,
There are already people that practice micro sustainability. What they do is they shield their apartments with orgonite cloud buster technology. They know how to create magnetic fields and use crystal energy and water structuring in their apartments in a small scale, like taking a bottle of glass and put your water in it with a crystal in it and put it out to charge in the sun kind of thing.
What's that called? Micro
sustainability. And I'm proposing this term so you could put your bookshelf from IKEA and put some plants on it, put a couple of solar panels.
Everybody's got a bookshelf from
by that solar panel. I already got that proposal ready. That was designs for those products.
That's funny you said that. Everybody's got a bookshelf from IKEA. Okay.
Is there an orgonite paint that's been developed? Have you got one?
I'm sure there is. If not, stucco, traditional paint that they use in Adobe buildings is orgonite.
Right.
It uses limestone.
What about the old lathing and plaster walls? I mean, how does that fare for people who are in homes like that right now? And until they can build one of these Vossahedron homes, what can, this micro sustainability, do you have, could you give me and Steve that reference later? Because
I will send you the proposal I wrote for IKEA.
Okay. You wrote one for
Oh, right. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
And I had friends present it. It is too progressive at the moment. but they are doing it. IKEA, to give them credit, do have a sustainability program. The inventor of the whole IKEA system is somebody who's into green building.
Absolutely.
I can
We just don't
imagine that.
have there's several pieces of dialogue we don't have in the corporate world. One is the healing word. Healing is like a UFO word. They don't even talk about the H word. Maybe wellness is the closest thing they're comfortable with. So if I walk into a room,
Not allowed
a
to heal.
corporate presentation, and we can't talk about free energy and healing, imagine me talking about off-world technology. I'm already a nut.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I would like to bridge the vocabulary. Right now, I have what may seem like an egotistical approach. I'm only going to work with people who are already professionally, intellectually, heart-based there right now.
Right.
When the people that are being invited to participate in our project, and those who are watching, we are right now actively inviting world visionaries who have this knowledge. If everything I'm showing you, you're saying, oh, I already know this, good. Step up.
I'm just
Contact us.
saying for all the political pundits who watch our programs, because we do a POTUS report too. We have different kinds of interviews that we do. I just want to bring this to the attention of President Trump. Okay, this is our future, and this is what we need to focus on.
This
is our future, and it's our president. It needs to be our present, though. This is not just future. This is something that we need to integrate now. Now, Trump is a developer. He's a builder. What would you say to him if he was here right now?
He's also a businessman.
Let me turn on the light.
But he also, it's getting a little dark. But he also knows that we need to. You're absolutely right. There's no question. He's a businessman, but I think he also sees that at some point we cannot sustain the way we're living.
Let me share a few disclosure here.
Okay.
The world of sustainable development, the world of free energy and healing the body, there is more wealth building capability in that world than the old paradigms. That means if you just want to talk about money, and I don't do this for money, of course.
Right.
And I'm calling out right now the Elon Musks of the world, the Richard Bransons of the world, the Trumps. The first individual or group that puts $1 billion openly into free energy will be the most famous, loved individual in the entire planet.
Right, in the history of the planet.
And that world is worth quadrillions of dollars.
But you know,
free energy has the most profit beyond oil, beyond nuclear. You can make a lot more wealth with free energy than you ever thought possible.
Well, you know that his. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, let him finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was.
Because when you meld free energy and healing, you build buildings that heal the body without pharmaceuticals, that has water that grows better food, children that are smarter. You have a civilization that is ready to build the light ships and portals. Isn't
productive?
Humanity you would like as part of your, if you want to say, portfolio. Right. So I'm saying that there is room right now for the wealthy who are wanting to have their yachts and their boats. Good, have them.
Yeah.
But open up regions for those of us who are doing this. Fund us radically.
Right.
I want to be a philanthropist. I want to fund free energy. I want to be the first person to put billions of dollars into free energy fearlessly. I have the cojones, the heart to do this. I would like a Trump to take his big fat mouth and say, I'm funding free energy. I am funding sustainability, and I'm doing it fearlessly.
Nice,
I'd love to hear it too. I'd love to hear it too.
I have a little model of Air Force One behind me. Please calm down. Okay, so now look, I mean, there has to be more. There has to be more for the people.
I'm not scared to use this vocabulary, and I visualize myself, ego or not, warrior spirit or not, entitlement or not, speaking at the UN. At their sustainability priority that they have now, and move billions of yuan dollars into free energy research and solutions now.
Well, the thing is this. I saw your thanks, Steve. I saw your Facebook post yesterday, and you looked so down. You looked so disheartened because you were talking about that this is really essentially they make it so cost prohibitive. There's so many things that are even illegal. I mean, it's so discouraged. This is about a control system on the planet, and we can't, until we're ready to give up some of this control. You know that it's been reported that Trump's uncle or grandfather, I think it was grandfather actually, was in the possession of some of the Nikola Tesla documents,
Technology.
papers. He had the papers, or he had some sort of what was this? His notebooks and things like that. And so, in his inauguration speech, he did say he wanted to bring in new technologies. He wanted to bring in, but we can't do it until he drains the swamp first, because they're blocking us. Because the world is a corporate state. There aren't countries. There's only corporations, and each one of us is a corporation by virtue of the Social Security card that we assigned and unknowingly didn't know what they were doing with it. And I'm not going to get too political here, but it is political, though. It's political, and that's the only block that's stopping us from becoming sustainable, isn't it? Or renewable, I should say.
I feel that the exodus will occur out of the cities very quickly. In the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to empty out the cities, because people like me who are building eco communities, for us, the evolution, the re-engineering of civilization will take place out in the open field. They won't be in the cities. We cannot build sustainable and existing cities at the moment. I would just let nature take over San Francisco and
so
LA.
this could happen at a grassroots level. We can bypass the corporations, just let the people decide for themselves. We need working models, of course, don't we? We need to show the people that it works.
Here's some of the things that are very counterintuitive. The movement of bioarchitecture, of ecological villages, of building eco communities off the grid has no leader at the moment, and we don't need one. We don't need a book. We don't need a
decentralized
religion. We don't even need a methodology.
Just do it. That's right.
In my network, I know of over 300 eco village projects going up right now, and I am aware indirectly of over 1,000 of them. That's just one person.
Wow.
So I would like to see 1,000 eco villages go up around the United States and every state out in the open. Like the hottest thing to do right now is to get a group of friends together and say, let's build an eco project together. To me, that's the sexiest thing you can do with your money right now.
Absolutely. But let me just say, people who have tried to live off grid have been taken down. People have had their front yard gardens confiscated by town councils. I mean, this is where we're living right now. The grips of fascism is upon us. But let me ask you, what is it like in other countries? Is it as bad as it is here in the United States? Is this control and fascism this bad?
I just got back from Peru. And I've visited 12 countries already researching eco development. It actually is easier in other countries right now. If you buy a piece of green property in Mexico, in Peru, in Costa Rica, in Brazil, you can pretty much do whatever you want. The problem is when you get into a matrix city and try to do it within the, not in the
jurisdiction,
council, but in the city government area. I see city governments as occupying armies that have taken over land illegally. So when they say, well, the city council and our HOA is forbidding you and we're going to fine you, I say, screw you. This land belongs to us. I would kick out the military out of the cities. I would kick out city government out of the cities, because they're running like mafias. They are including all of the crimes, and I'm going to list a few, like Arizona, that has police predatory vultures like jackals. They're ticketing people like crazy. That means to me the insanity has gotten to a point that is criminal. The court system gives you subpoenas, start making your payments on your fees, and you're like student loans, and you're in debt.
They punish you. That's right.
Any city that is using crime as their fundraiser is a crime.
Yeah. Well, on the GoldFish Report, 24/7 news page on Facebook, there's a little write-up a little summary I gave from all of these country roads reports with Winston Shrout, and it does explain how we got into that mess. But I'm not going to take our time now to explain it. Let me just go back to screen sharing. If there was anything else you want
to address something where the first few steps are for sustainability.
Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. Go back.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
when I talk about micro sustainability
Mm,
as a step into regeneration, that's really where you want to get to.
mm,
Start with this planet, your body. I
yeah.
have dedicated the last 4 years of my life to becoming vegetarian after being a
Yeah.
heavy meat eating Mexican who loves carnitas and carne asada and barbecue, all of
Mhm.
that. I decided to create the Vossahedron project in my own body by
Ooh,
the way I eat, by the relationship I have with my cells, because I'm going to give you the secret to peace on earth. If you make peace with your cells in your body,
with your cells. I get
Your
it. Get it,
cells.
Steve. Get it. Oh, that's good. That's good,
that
Fernando.
initiates a sequence of events and it
Oh,
changes reality.
whoa. Make
When
peace with
somebody,
your
let me say
cells.
that
Oh my
again, that
God.
is the
That is
secret to
so amazing.
sustainability.
Ooh, this is
I do
genius.
not consume any pharmaceuticals, not even
Yeah.
aspirin. I haven't seen
Yeah.
a doctor face to face in 20 years and stepped foot in a
Mm,
hospital. I decided to step
right.
by step use my body and my mind as the proof of concept for the Vossahedron. I've regenerated, I'm 54 right now. I've retuned my metabolism to 28. I have a better body structure and muscular regeneration right now than I did in my 30s. I'm in better shape now than in my 30s.
Are you
That means
vegan?
stamina. I am vegetarian, vegan. I don't put a specific definition.
Well, I think
Because,
vegan just means no animal products at all, which means almost like, you're eating leaves and
well,
berries
sometimes I eat,
and nuts.
no, it's not leaves. Vegan is not leaves, you know.
It's not
Um,
animal product.
it is
It's
not animal
pasta. Yeah,
products,
yeah, yeah.
but
Pasta.
it can be done as a form of art. And that is the second part of that I'm sharing. First, start with your own body.
Yeah,
Liberate yourself from chemistry. Liberate yourself from the food system. Liberate yourself and become a minimalist for
yeah.
a while.
Right.
Because those of us who've experienced issues with finances, imagine radical people like us don't get jobs that easy. We don't get projects that easy, you know,
Right.
because
Right.
the system's set up not
You're
to give us that.
yeah, you're not mainstream. What
So I
about
learned not
dairy?
to be, not to buy, not to have a garage full of crap I don't need.
Mm,
I don't have storage
Oh,
rooms full of stuff anymore, full of
yeah,
Walmart products and things that I bought that I don't need.
right.
Second, I've learned how not to consume. I don't even have a working cell phone right now. I haven't had cell phone service for a year. I use Wi-Fi whenever I can get it. If not, I don't want to be reached. It's not an emergency to me to check every single little message, every single little text that comes in. That's not my priority.
Jeez.
I stopped watching the news and television. I don't even know what happened yesterday or the day before in the news,
yeah, me
CNN,
too.
and that that doesn't clutter up my brain anymore. These aren't uh, criticisms. I'm just letting you know,
Sure.
as a researcher, how
Sure.
far I went.
Yeah.
The second or third or fourth part is I have kind of unwrapped myself from the matrix as much as possible. Fernando Vossa is not my real name. I've created a persona
Mm,
that all you can find out about me is my research, my work.
Quite right.
You can't find anything else about my real life unless you want to find an old address. That's out there. It is out there for people to know. But
Yeah.
if you
yeah.
look up Fernando Vossa, you've done this, Louisa. It's a different kind of human. It's not a traditional career. My LinkedIn doesn't look like a normal professional career.
Nope.
I I also am fearless about publishing the fact that I am a scientist, a healer, an artist, a
Yeah.
teacher, a world
Philosopher.
changer from
Yeah.
the beginning.
Researcher. Yeah.
That that is how I started being invited to shows like this. I
Right.
published my research fearlessly.
Well, we know, but yeah, right. But I mean, we recognize your genius, though. I mean, I really do think that there's a stroke of genius within you. And that,
Absolutely.
people might think you're eccentric, but that's pretty much the definition of genius.
Is that what it
And
is?
it's fantastic. I mean, just the things that you said and make
When
peace with
people ask me, well,
ourselves.
Fernando,
Oh,
are you going
it's
to
huge.
build houses for the homeless?
Yeah.
No. The first Vossahedrons are for people like me, so I can help and accelerate.
Yeah.
Because roughly 6 to 10% of the population of the planet could create enough wealth and value and food and water and housing for everybody. That's
Sustain the rest.
Right.
if people like us have those resources in front of us, which
Right.
we are right now manifesting.
Right.
Fernando, what about the colder climates? The colder climates. How would your structures work in a northern climate? For instance?
The operating the specifications for the Vossahedron are for 40 below weather to 120 degrees. That's its operating envelope
Fahrenheit.
without a heater or an air conditioner,
Really?
because it works off your body heat. It can contain body heat in your bedroom. The walls are
Right.
that.
Oh.
If heating were necessary, what would you have as a solution?
The house is like a radiator. As
Mm-hmm.
the sun is moving across the sky throughout the day and throughout the year, it fractalizes. That means it stores through thermal mass in the corners heat. But it doesn't do it in a big, giant sunroom. It does it in smaller proportions. So the
Right.
bathroom has its own little place where it heats and cools itself. Your bedroom heats and cools itself. So does the kitchen and other places. I don't need to run a heater with ducts everywhere. All
Sure.
those big curves are the ducts. And you can stop the heat or let it out. So just with a few hours of sunlight in the
That's
middle of
enough for them.
winter,
That's
even
enough for the nighttime as well.
it'll heat up certain pockets of air and they'll store in the thermal mass in the
Within
corners.
the structure.
The
Right.
corners are 1 foot thick in the Vossahedron.
Wow. Okay.
So it is like a stasis chamber, is what you said when you the first thing you said pretty much when we started discussing this. So it's like a stasis chamber, which helps to regenerate. This is amazing. And let's talk a little
Let's
uh,
get to the good stuff, right?
engineering.
Finally, the exopolitics. Okay.
Now we know from other interviews we've done, and I'm not saying I have firsthand knowledge of this, but for people who have researched UFOs and things like that, some of the UFOs are actually grown, and they're grown basically they're to match the pilot's own DNA or frequency, and so so it can really only communicate with that one pilot, and so this is where you have technology and you have biology interface, and really anything is programmable. I mean, a rock, a stone, any material, from what I understand, is actually programmable. I don't know how to do it. The technology does exist, but of course they hold it back from all of humanity. And humanity has to get up off their knees and they have to start asking for this, or actually demanding it, because we are slaves no more now that everybody's waking up. So what do you have to say about? You said off-world inspiration. Let's go there. What kind of off-world inspiration did you have for these designs and your architecture?
Uh, on the one side, we did a UFO research program that lasted 2 years. We were trained by Jose Escamilla and Ed Grimsley how to use night vision technology to capture phenomena, everything from craft to light ships to biological phenomena. Jose Escamilla taught me about the rods and how to capture amoeba-looking creatures in the sky, what time of day, what kind of angles, what kind of lenses,
Whoa.
all of that, exposure times.
Isn't it it's the opposite lens? The Italian astronomer or scientist, right? He said instead of using the concave, you use a convex lens, and then that's correct? Then you
It's
can
kind of
see
like
these things?
letting the camera look around corners, bending light, expanding the
Uh-huh.
spectrum like a rainbow and looking for craft in the middle of the rainbow, which you can't see when you collapse the light back to white.
Ooh.
This is a subject for another call, but what I wanted to share was we have the scientific side of observation,
Mm-hmm.
and we've documented hundreds of craft, including Merkaba fields floating in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
toroidal fields that like crop circles that are floating in space. We have pictures of that stuff. So
Cool.
that's one side of that
Yeah.
research,
Amazing.
which taught me that there's a lot more going on in the atmosphere, everything from metallic craft to energetic craft to biological, organic, analog craft that are not digital. All of that we've captured. The other part
Wow.
of that is
Mm.
the consciousness side of things, where you learn how to meditate and remote view, get
Mhm.
out of your body, and target. So I work with other researchers who have taught me how to do that with frequencies. People like David Sarita, who showed me his crystal devices that resonate, and you put your hands on them, and your body's at the resonant frequency of a particular star or a particular planet, and you have an interaction of information exchange. Now, on the farther end of esoteric studies, we learn about the Pleiadian model, the Sirian, the Arcturian, the different inner Earth civilizations. All right, well, how interesting. I say, okay, what would it be like if I learned a piece of information and I put it to work right away without questioning it? Could that happen? And that happened with me. I wanted to learn how a civilization that's evolved from a physical carbon body into a crystalline body, let's say that transformation takes 1 million years. I don't have a time frame for it, but let's just say it takes us that long of evolution. And what happens after 200 million years when a civilization, a planet, does one complete rotation of the galaxy? That's about 210 million years. There are civilizations, there are planets in the Pleiadian star system that's nearby that have done that entire rotation more than once. So I thought, okay, what kind of paradigms could I learn? How did a humanity, and by the way, I wanted to disclose that from everything that I've studied and the conversations that I've had, humanity has been around for trillions of years. Did that microphone catch that number? Trillions.
With a T, with a T.
With a T.
Years. Every single moon, asteroid, beyond this galaxy into other galaxies, there are civilizations that we've communicated with telepathically through archives here on Earth. The Sumerian Kings list say humans have been everywhere in creation. It boggles the mind. They've left their inscriptions on asteroids, little buildings on moons. That has been documented in photography, that asteroids that have done nearby flybys on Earth have had structures on them. Who built these? Well, I want to talk to those humans. That human DNA is in this body and I can communicate with it. That is who I asked, teach me how to do this. I asked my ancestors to teach me how to do this. My Incan, Mayan, Aztec, Sumerian, Egyptian, Anunnaki, Pleiadian, Syrian, Arcturian ancestors.
Wow. That includes how many lifetimes it goes back.
Well,
you
let's
go
just
back.
say
Let's just
lifetimes
say you go
on
back a
a
long
million
way.
different worlds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at spaceships, you see that they also have a dome shaped as well. So it's pretty consistent. I mean, there's some battleships and probably bigger things from the images I've seen. I actually saw a UFO, but it was like bell shaped. So someone said that was like a Nazi UFO or something. I don't know. But it was green, greener than a green traffic light. It was so bright green.
Like Morpheus in The Matrix asks, you really believe that is air you're breathing right now? Interesting.
Yeah.
We're in a matrix.
Question everything. Yeah.
So exactly.
How would it be if we taught from elementary school on forward to have a liquid mind that can traverse fields of knowledge where students can learn that there are paradigms for inner Earth, there are people who believe in inner Earth, there are people who believe in extraterrestrial civilizations. How could we have a discernment where we can be exposed to that knowledge, things that were in the Library of Alexandria, scrolls that are still around at the British Museum that I've experienced directly, that give you instructions on how to regenerate the human body. That is written in stone in a lot of places. We can communicate with DNA in a way that it starts expressing new stem cells. And you can walk into a temple with a particular frequency and magnetic field that gives you the homeopathic signature, like taking a little homeopathic medicine. All you need is the sound or the emotion or the imprint of that frequency, and your DNA says,
you're healed.
wow, this guy's ready. This being is ready for that switch where your immune system becomes superconductive. Disease has no chance in a body that is vibrating at a conscious level, viruses and bacteria
True.
are not able to grow.
Right.
Cancer cells are not able to replicate when
Right.
a body starts vibrating at this level. You can see it in a microscope. You
Mhm.
can test it chemically, but doctors still don't feel comfortable with the idea of having a body with a superconductive immune system.
I think they're not comfortable with the idea of losing money. I'm sorry. Let me just say that,
They could make more money if they grabbed onto this.
yeah, well, I mean, look,
I agree.
but all the natural healing doctors are all being murdered, it looks like. And this is, the fight we're in with big pharma and everything. But uh, viruses, each virus vibrates at a certain frequency, doesn't it?
It is, but there's the chemical dialogue with viruses, and
Hmm.
there's also the energetic dialogue of viruses with
Hmm.
your body,
Hmm.
uh, because there's a kind of interactive reprogramming of core code
Hmm.
where the virus
Hmm.
is inviting you to evolve
Hmm.
by its intrusion. The virus comes into your body, it attaches itself to cells. The particles in viruses are very different than the bacteria viruses. A
Okay.
bacteria
Uh-huh.
looks huge compared to
Yeah.
a little virus,
Hmm.
but there are smaller quantum structures that also invade our bodies.
Hmm.
And of course they're described as demons and so forth, but
Thought
how
forms as well. Yeah. Hey, please explain the superconductive immune system,
Hmm.
in your understanding.
if you are able to create a level of efficiency where the response rate to invasion to the body is different. Uh,
Right.
the idea that cancer is a natural reaction of the body, we call it cancer because we want to sell you something.
Hmm.
Um, but the body naturally responds to trauma in different ways. It's You could have cancer cells right now, your body's working on healing them, and you would never know it that you have cancer.
Right.
That
Right.
that's the kind of relationship where, and Greg Braden calls this the field, and so does um, Bruce Lipton,
Bruce Lipton. Yeah.
where we can no longer treat the physical body as what you see with your eyes because you're transmitting and receiving information to a field that is quantum. That means it's always there.
Hmm.
And
So
when
it
the
would be
field,
epigenetic that your mind, your thoughts can affect it in an instant way. Would
yes.
that be describing correctly? Right. Okay.
So
I
you
get it.
get sick before you get sick.
Right.
The corruption in the field happens first. It gets expressed later in the physicality
In the
of your body.
physicality, that's right. Okay,
And
I
once
understand.
again, how many architects have this dialogue, this language that I'm spitting out?
Yeah.
It's not an attempt to show off. It is
No, no, no.
I am
It's an
proud
inclusive
to
knowledge and
to
understanding.
to invite this language at conferences where we design
Right.
the cities of the future.
Well,
Well, our science has been compartmentalized, and that's the problem we have. What you're doing is you're uniting all the different disciplines of understanding, science and philosophy, and that's what we need. People like you and people of this understanding to unite all the disciplines and to have an understanding of the universe that's not separated from another, and that will bring us to this new age. I believe that the new age that I'd like to see in any case.
Right. I wanted
Yeah,
to share a little bit about how this relates to what we call the secret space program.
please do.
please.
When I was doing the initial testing of my models, that I 3D print one of the shells, or I make one out of clay, or I mix concrete and test the different orgonite, and I move the structure like a dial so it aligns to certain north-south orientation or to certain fields that I've measured. I either took my instruments and noticed that there's Harmon lines or Curry lines, which are smaller than ley lines. Ley lines are huge. They're the size of
Yeah, the big ones. Yeah,
Hmm.
Curry lines. Harmon lines are about, 4 feet square,
all
and
Hmm.
they're
right.
smaller. There's like proof that there's a grid on Earth. Who put a grid across the entire planet that is rectangles that you could measure in time,
90-degree angles. Yeah, yeah,
right?
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, it was like I was turning a radio, and when I would move my structure, then I would shine an ultraviolet laser through the model. And I have pictures of this in what Louisa was showing, where I use a bowl of water I put my dome on top and I use an ultraviolet laser so I can see if there's any movement at all. And there's a holographic distortion on top of the water when my dome is on top of it.
Mm.
When I take my dome, the
Serious.
water calms down. I recorded this phenomenon.
Whoa.
Well,
Holographic distortion.
I was able to tune in mentally. It was like my body and my model and my instruments all working together, where I could suddenly get a bandwidth, and I was getting a download of a lot of information, and I would move the dome and the
Mm.
information would go away. It was like I was tuning into
Wow.
interference patterns coming. Let me put it a different way. There are projects right now that are producing radiation that my domes can detect, that is not detectable by a computer or a radio, because it's a different frequency. It's in the gigahertz, 10 gigahertz and higher. So there are
Right.
people making machines that are distorting time that I can detect.
Mm.
There are people making machines that are doing free energy that I can detect with my dome little devices. I have proof that there are technologies that are not part of what's, they show us in aerospace. I'll give you a couple. I used to work with GE Aerospace on the B-2 bomber project in the mid-90s. That's
The
the last
software.
part of when I worked in the corporate America.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that wing, that device, that ship has two magnetic drives inside. They're not big. Their devices maybe about this big around, that create a distortion field where that device at 100,000 feet, the B-2 wing needs no more fuel. It can slice through a quantum opening, a rift. It's like going through without any drag. It doesn't have any resistance. It's building
Wow.
the front of it. It's like a sonic boom that's pushing air, creates a little membrane, and it's falling through space, through the air. So I thought, what kind of sound wave does that produce that I could detect? Could I detect a B-2 bomber flying across my house? The answer is yes. You just need to know what frequency.
The frequency.
Right.
But you need a combination of crystals to do that and magnets.
Mm.
The same kind of frequencies that people use to heal the body. I
Right.
found that interesting.
So it generates a field around itself.
It does, and you can detect it, but you can't hear it and you can't see
Right.
it. You can detect it's a quantum distortion. So I went further with my research and said, what kind of quantum distortions are out there known?
Mm.
I'll give you one. Tesla developed a small device that when you went into his teleporter that he was working on, it would record your body's magnetic field before you left. And when you came back, you have to reset your body back to that state. It was like a USB. It wasn't a USB, but imagine a USB
Yeah.
device that stores the picture of you before you left. And when you come back, you need to reset it or you're going to get sick. Your body will feel like it has cancer.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's like, let's just talk about this in terms that we can understand. So it's like bits, gigabytes or megabytes of information. Let's say like we pixelize and then we have to be reassembled in the right pixelated form in order to make that, in order to do the teleportation and come back. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
But yes, you are distorting the magnetic field of your body when you're
Right.
doing time control.
Okay,
And you're not
because
really dematerializing, you're just affecting and Andrew Basaggio corroborates this,
yeah.
and he taught me how they use bismuth crystals in a projector that distorted the quantum hologram around you and you were seeing a different time field. So
Okay.
it's not like you were dematerializing, the time around you was being distorted.
Okay, whoa, slow down. Okay, so I heard that this is how some holograms work in terms of 3D holograms, and
Right.
that there's some, let's say, reptilians who use this technology. That's how they take on human form. Is this
Yes.
correct, Fernandez? Is
So as the technology that controls minds,
mm-hmm,
that creates interference patterns in our brain, so we are not tuned into nature, we're
mm-hmm,
not tuned into the heart and love and compassion, that also has a particular range of frequencies. So if you have, let's say, a space colony where you're creating what would be considered artificial gravity that has a particular signature, well, we can detect those signatures. There are things in orbit right now that you can't see that are creating artificial gravity. This is what the Vossahedron captured, because when you have a pure crystal, the Vossahedron is like a quartz crystal. Anything that deviates from coherence, that means clean frequencies, noise, anything that is dark has noise in it. The dark technology that creates weapons, mind control, diseases, that creates interference in the weather patterns, that creates earthquakes through interference, sound waves in the Earth's crust. All of that dark technology is transparent to us because we can see you. We can see the matrix now. We know that if we can walk into a building and we know that they're working on torture technology there. They're working on mind control because
you can detect the frequency.
Right. Yeah. And you
Steve,
cannot detect this with electronics.
All right, please explain this to me. All right, the Vossahedron obviously is it's like an antenna. It reacts to even consciousness by the sound of it. So how do you detect? How do you measure? You detect it with water and a laser. Are there other ways of detecting things? What measuring instruments do you use? For instance?
My body is the sensor.
Right, you sense
after
it. So
10 years
so it amplifies the signal and then you
your body, your physical body, when you start eating for super nutrition,
there's a measuring device. Yeah, you're tuning your device.
Develop a whole new sona pellucida.
Well, DNA is an antenna.
That's the membrane around the cell. It actually is able to absorb a bigger bandwidth of light.
Right.
So when you tune your body to higher consciousness, and it's not a higher lower thing, it's just like exercise.
Yeah.
Your eyes can see a wider bandwidth of light. Your ears can receive a wider bandwidth of sound. Your body receives a wider bandwidth of electromagnetic frequencies.
I get it.
You become an empath.
Yeah, well, our bodies all have what's called a prime frequency. So everybody's body has even though each organ in the body resonates at a different frequency, we have an overall unique frequency signature, as you were alluding to before when it came to teleportation. This also gets targeted though in the scalar technology when they're trying to target certain individuals. They can find you through scalar waves. They can target a person's unique, like a thumbprint or fingerprint, prime frequency. And so this is what I see is a man who is a designer and architect who said, we need to incorporate so many other disciplines, as Steve said before, in order to get ourselves ready for accepting this concept of, we have to demand it. That's what we have to do. It's not about accepting this concept of technology of
we have to make it happen.
Regenerative products. It's about that we have to demand it. Actually, isn't that right?
I went beyond demanding. I'm just doing it.
Doing. We have to make it happen.
From the government, from the cities, from corporations, from anybody to build the Vossahedron technology. It's already been tested. 4 years R&D.
Right.
I have had black helicopters chase me. I've had men in black come and search me out. I've had phone calls dropped, and that happened early in our UFO research. But something interesting has happened. And I interact with other researchers around the world. Mm-hmm. It seems like this year, the opposition has gotten out of the way. They're not helping, but they're not blocking.
Interfering. Right.
So well, you could thank Trump for draining the swamp, okay? That's what he's doing. And he's trying, because it's the deep state. It's the deep state and all the corporations associated with them that have had a stake in this. They had money to lose. And
but there's also a consciousness shift that's happening worldwide as well.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Good point, Steve. Excellent. What about the energies? That's something you were going to talk about. Something about the energies that are coming in and what's going on with this change and shift in consciousness.
the first thing that I do is when I learn a paradigm from consciousness studies,
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a channeling, I listen to a teacher, I read something
Mm-hmm.
in some kind of advanced text,
Mm-hmm.
I accept it as truth without even worrying about it. It doesn't threaten me to know about extraterrestrial civilizations that have contacted us telepathically. I like that paradigm. I like the idea that we have access to the language of nature so we can, as you mentioned, Louisa, talk to rocks. How about a
What did I do? Sorry, Fernando.
was it that good?
Can you repeat that? I'm really sorry. I was trying to.
No, I did. I stopped.
What
All
happened?
right, okay.
No, no, no. I was trying to
So,
just test some sound. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and it's getting dark here, so it's just gonna. I have one light. That's it for now. So
Okay.
we'll make it mysterious. This is
We'll be starting to wrap it up soon. So.
what if magnetic fields, and I'm going to give you the 7 technologies that I work with, which are the same as free energy and healing. Same. Crystals, water, magnetic fields, sound, sacred geometry, thought, intention, and the grouping of natural elements, earth, fire, air, and water. I call that's just one group for
Mm-hmm.
me. Those are the same ingredients of free energy as the same as healing. And if I was a multi-billionaire, which I will be at some point, if you don't have a portfolio right now invested in
Mm-hmm.
water technology, in food technology, in healing, and in free energy, and in housing, you're behind already.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if those natural fields of crystals, of magnets and water and all of that, what if they were intelligent and they were you? They're parts of you. So when I design a Vossahedron concept, I already know the electricity in the surrounding area of nature, the electrons that are free flowing on the surface of the dirt, they are recognizing the sacred geometry structure that I'm building, and they want to come in and play and dance in it. Free energy is not about breaking, burning, or exploding anything. It is about taking the dance of fields and inviting that dance to come and be around you. You
Yeah.
have to be so beautiful and loving with your intention of the machine that you're building that the light itself, the sun, sees my Vossahedron as a conscious being and says, I love you. I'm going to shine light on your little dome directly from space. The water itself. And I'm going to show you how the Vossahedron makes water in the desert.
Mm.
When water changes state from solid to liquid to gas, it is the amount of electricity energy in it that makes that change. Yes or no? Do we accept that as science?
I guess so.
How do you change liquid water to gas water? You add energy, heat.
Yeah, heat, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Why did we stop explaining it there in school? What happens after gas? Plasma
Right.
happens.
Yes.
Plasma, that fourth state of matter they didn't teach us out in school.
That's right.
Right.
The
Right.
Vossahedron is made with plasma concrete, and it has its own plasma field around it. Just like DNA has plasma
Mm-hmm.
sheets of holographic information, just like a blood cell has a plasma field around it.
Mm-hmm.
Second, after water becomes plasma,
Mm-hmm.
if you keep adding energy to it,
Mm-hmm.
it turns into electricity. In the desert, like the Sahara, the Dead Sea, it used to be water there. Water is still there energetically. All you have to do
Plasmatically.
is send it the electric signal, which nature does with lightning in the desert, and it rains. The water in the desert does not come from condensation from the ocean. It is just changing state. So I did a few tests with the Vossahedron
Mm-hmm.
where we tuned a Cal Earth dome, a real dome home, the one you saw in that picture,
Mm-hmm.
and we played sound inside, and it rained on top of the dome, in the middle of the Chihuahuan Desert, Sonora,
Amazing.
with no clouds in the sky. We have that
Wow.
on video.
Wow, I'm going to screen share this other technology that I think you're starting to talk about here. Can you tell us about these IntelliTrees and how does this work in conjunction with your designs?
Yes, the IntelliTrees are the work and vision of a fellow researcher named Gary Voss, Voss,
Russ?
VOSS. And the IntelliTrees are a technology that looks like a tree, kind of like those cell phone towers, but inside it can generate electricity.
Mm-hmm.
It can pull water from the atmosphere through a type of condenser that uses sound and uh, and be able to store electricity. But it's a platform where that tree can also drop seeds and water them, and it grows a green space around it.
Mm-hmm.
It produces a benevolent Wi-Fi at frequencies that are good for the body.
Mm-hmm.
So these trees can be airlifted and dropped in emergency areas. A few trees start producing electricity and water and communications, and eventually it grows food. And there's a variety of add-ons to the IntelliTrees. It's a platform. And so we can build a Vossahedron, put IntelliTrees out there. We have a self-sufficient community.
Wow.
Doesn't that sound
So
beautiful?
at Harvest,
Unbelievable.
isn't this wonderful, Steve? That's why I was so
Incredible.
excited about doing this interview. I was like, I sent him an email saying, I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk about it. I've never done that before. It is because this is to get excited
Oh,
about.
this
I
is great
recognize the
technology.
value of it.
And I have a
Yours
question
will
for
as well.
the audience as a vision.
Yeah.
What would happen if children from elementary school start learning about being sustainable?
Right.
So by the time they graduate junior high,
Look at that.
they know how to build their own homes. They know how to generate their own electricity.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to heal their own bodies. They know how to harvest water, how to grow their own food. What do you think is going to happen to this generation?
Different world we would live in.
We'll have a different universe. The thing is that would challenge the current paradigm, so it has to change.
Yeah.
So
Look,
we want to create something new.
eco real estate, bioarchitecture, these are new words in our vocabulary. This is phenomenal. I'm definitely having my kids study this because I want them to have this benefit.
I'll give you a very simple
Look at this,
business vision.
these designs.
There is
Yeah.
no Remax or Century 21 of eco real estate. No organization has taken on that brand where you can buy a piece of land and have somebody
that.
build an off-grid structure on it. That's the business model.
Look at that, Steve.
That is the now.
Look at this wonderful.
I know, it's
Look at that.
fantastic.
I mean, you can work with the angles. Look at that. You really can, and in an amazing way. And
No 90-degree
And
angles.
that's an early version of the kitchen. I have a newer one that's
Yeah.
completely geometric because
Yeah.
I learned from the world of RVs, expedition vehicles, that
Oh,
Yeah.
everything in your house should do 2 or 3 things. You should have panels that fold and give you more counter surface. You should have the ability to reconfigure your furniture. So if you have a gathering of people, you want to make love in your living room with your spouse and you need the whole room, you should be able to hide all your furniture. You should be able to do yoga, dance, have healing practice, have guests in one structure. It's a reconfigurable platform.
All right. What do we do with our current cities? What's going to happen? What should we do? What do you see?
look at that. The central sitting area. I'm sorry, I'm still looking at the design.
If I was
Look at that staircase.
if I was the mayor of a city, I would declare sustainability as an emergency, and all efforts will be placed
Great.
funding legal descriptions of ecological zoning as an emergency, to the point where I would repurpose city buildings and land for growing food everywhere.
Yeah.
When I go
Quite
into
right.
a city, I want to be able to fill my water bottle with clean, healing structured water in any building. Every public project, whether it's a stadium, whether it's a theater, should produce electricity and water and food for the surrounding community as a law.
Mhm.
How's that?
We've
for-
got all.
That's a great
We've got that. That's a great vision. We got all these stacks of shoe boxes. What do we do with all the structures?
There are going to be architects in the near future specializing in concrete retrieval and processing. What are we going to do with the millions of miles of road?
Yeah, the materials. The
and
materials. Yeah.
We're going to have to
Wow, look at
assemble a
Repurpose.
freeway system because it's obsolete.
Can you tell us what this is, this Vedita?
This structure is called the Vedita. That means the Vedic meditation dome. It's the frame of the Vossahedron without the concrete.
Okay.
And if you stand inside of it or lay down, you're in an antenna.
Mm.
You're receiving and transmitting life. If you stop for a moment scrolling, I'll show you. It
Yeah.
has 5 levels from the star at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
It represents the earth,
Mm-hmm.
then fire, then air and water, then spirit. Those 5 levels are the 5 levels of ascension.
Mm-hmm.
This cage-like device
Mm-hmm.
is a shield that also blocks radiation without the concrete. How's that for fun?
Well, let me ask you
Amazing.
something. How
It's a
does this
rejuvenation shell, by the way.
how does
That's
this
what it is.
compare to a pyramid and the benefits that you have from a pyramid? Are they just two different types of things? Because we know our friend Rob Potter, who does he
Oh
has
yeah,
these
the promise revealed.
he has these pyramids that you can
His
lay in as well,
keystone
and
crosses.
yeah.
I've actually held that. It's beautiful. They're amazing energy.
How is it different? And yeah, maybe you can
My
explain that.
my take on this is that the pyramid geometry was appropriate for the consciousness
Mm-hmm.
of
All
the
the time.
Egyptian,
Okay.
Mayan, Incan time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're in a different human consciousness.
Okay.
We
Very good.
would need different geometries for our temples and our cities to
Mhm.
take this mind that's been programmed by a matrix. The old pyramids don't have the kind of power they used to because it's a different kind of body, different kind of human.
Mm.
We
Yeah,
also,
I'll say.
we've limited ourselves to the platonic solids, thinking that's all there is.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, the platonic solids are infinite. There are infinite number of platonic solids. We just have to have a different level of consciousness
Mm.
and evolution. The Vossahedron is bringing in a new platonic solid. It's not fully expressed yet because it has to be the
Mhm.
top part and the bottom part.
Mm.
And revision 2 of the Vossahedron is a magnetic levitation house. It no longer needs a foundation. It just sits and
Mhm.
it never touches the ground.
Okay, let me just move to another image that. Yeah, so here you are on location. Here you're building, setting up. You have your team here, and there you are, and you're setting up. Here's a sample. Is this a sample of this
Core
material?
samples. And
Yeah.
that is a sample of the Vossahedron uh, uh, crete. It's not hempcrete. I had to use cactus fiber. The maguey used to make tequila. I
Okay.
went to Tequila, Guadalajara, where they make tequila, and I brought some organic fiber from their factories, the leftover,
Oh.
and I put it into my concrete to show
Oh.
how you can have compression strength that is load bearing, and you can put it underwater for a month or indefinitely, and it doesn't
With
dissolve
natural fibers.
Wow.
with
That looks
natural
pretty
fibers.
hard, though. I mean, if you look at
It,
what
it
about if it
hardens
gets
like
wet?
stone, but
Oh,
it's
it
light
hardens. It hardens.
because
I
it
mean,
has air bubbles.
well, I mean, look
And
at
it's not reinforced. Not reinforced.
It's reinforced by the fibers,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
It's
micro
like
not by steel
micro
or iron.
reinforcement.
yeah. So this was, and how did
Right.
they? So look at all the temples and everything. That was, what did they build the temples out of? I mean, they did. They had as raw materials as they get, and this was, thousands of years ago. Look at the pyramids. How did they build those stones with all the sand? How did So
Well,
there's you're
the
saying
Bosnian pyramids had
We
concrete that
still
had
don't know.
a bit. Yeah, that's right. We don't know.
yeah. And then so here you go. Here's another sample. This one's kind of a wet one.
That's when I first pour it,
Yeah.
and when I do the mixing in the concrete mixer,
All right.
I take a, a copper rod,
Uh-huh.
a thick copper rod, and stick it in the concrete
Mm,
and grab it
mm,
and ground with my feet barefoot on the ground. I use my body as the filter
mm,
to filter the electrons going into the concrete mixture.
mm,
The other thing that we do is we put sound with
mhm,
these magnetic transducers attached to the concrete mixer.
mm,
And it resonates that mixture at 432 hertz, 528 hertz,
mhm,
any frequency we want. And what happens is the mixture, when it's mixing the concrete, it starts vibrating
uh-huh.
and it makes these little bubbles with the sound. It's cymatics in the concrete.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
So that,
Incredible. That's the future. That's
Yeah.
right.
There we
that's
have
the
it.
I
now.
love it.
I mean,
I
I've
love it.
and here's the
I love
so
it.
I've seen some these glass tiles that I don't know what they're made of, but I've seen these glass tiles, and I know you know what I'm talking about, that are used as solar panels. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. When you capture sunlight in a traditional silicon wafer
Hmm.
uh, solar panel, it's very inefficient. They're only like 5% efficient. That's terrible. 95% of the
Yeah.
electricity sunlight is wasted.
Hmm.
Um, one of the reasons is that you're only capturing sunlight from one angle.
Hmm.
So those transparent solar cells capture sunlight from, they make little spherical solar cells inside embedded in those glass
Yeah.
see-through. So it
They're
captures
glass
sun.
see-through. Yes, they're glass see-through panels or
Mhm.
tiles. I should have said that. You're right. They're
If
trans.
you take a traditional solar panel that's square with
Right.
little square grids
Yeah.
and take the little solar cells and arrange them in a circular pattern like a mandala, you
Hmm.
get a bump up in efficiency just from reshaping it.
Wow.
If you layer the wafers like a tree canopy, where you
Hmm.
have solar cells and then another level, kind of like a Christmas tree, you
Okay.
get 40% efficiency out of solar cells because you've stacked them just like nature. There is nothing in nature that receives sun like a solar cell. Leaves have curvature,
Right.
canopies have a fractal structure made up of a bunch of leaves, and
Yes.
they're radial, like a flower. A flower is 100% solar efficient.
Yeah.
Photosynthesis is pure superconductivity.
Sure.
That's
Oh,
that's our marker. We need to get to solar cells that look like works of art. And there are people already building solar cell mandalas.
yeah, that's amazing. We're
Really?
getting close to a time we have to. I hate to
Oh,
say
okay.
this, that we have to start wrapping up. It's been 2 hours. We're just about at our 2 hour mark,
Thank
and I'll
you.
tell you, I just don't even. I think we could keep going. We're gonna
We
have to
can.
have you come back.
For weeks, for
Fernando,
weeks.
If
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
Fernando,
take a solar cell, that means a solar panel, arrange it into a round mandala shape, and put a vortex coil, one of those
yeah.
beautiful vortex mathematics coils, between the solar cell and the inverter, you almost double the
Yeah.
efficiency of the solar cell.
Well,
That's
Wow.
the
I'm
energy.
gonna say this. I'm gonna invite our policymakers to comment and to message us and to get involved in doing this kind of renewable and regenerative architecture, because uh, this is this is where we need to be. We need to stop depleting the resources out of this planet, and we're pillaging this planet, and it's for profit. And if we don't change that, we're going to destroy it, and there'll be nothing left. So
Well, the
all I have to,
only I think the best way we do is to do it by example, Louisa. I think we need to start communities. I think there's no other way, because if we rely on it to come from the top down, it's just never going to happen. We have to start the communities. What do you think?
well, there's more of us than them. So if we do it that way, we can definitely have an
Yeah.
impact. So, Steve, do you have any other questions for our wonderful guest? What incredible.
Well, too
And I do
many,
have some
too
closing
too many,
comments.
too
Well,
many.
any final questions for today? Because we have to. Fernando, would you come back and join us again on Goldfish Report so we
Yes,
can
I would like
continue
to
this
give
wonderful
updates
dialogue?
next time on the prototyping process I think
Please,
Baja California is going to be our first site.
Excellent.
I
fantastic.
invite
Steve,
everybody watching to open the doors and radically support sustainability. The people like us who have been
absolutely.
shut out,
Hmm.
invite us to your homes to help you be sustainable. Make sure that the city councils know that this is an option that is real.
Yeah,
I visualize a time very quickly when people like me are going to be
yeah,
sought after worldwide. Those
right,
of us who couldn't get a $5 an hour paying job are going to
right.
be called by the UN, by every nation to say, please help us do this in our country. We're
Yeah,
ready. I'm
yeah.
ready.
It's time, and I agree with you. And I think Goldfish Report, whatever we can do, we will definitely be promoting sustainability, eco tourism, real estate, I would say. But we are definitely behind this, because we need to be. If we don't get the information out, people aren't going to know about it. So it is an important role. Steve, did you have any final questions for Fernando?
Well, what
One, like one.
incredible man. I think I don't have any questions for you right now, apart from a few thousand. But what I think what strikes me right now is that I see that the way forward is by being ambassadors and bringing forth the knowledge that you have accumulated and worked so hard to put together for a beautiful foreseeable future that's ready, as you said, in the now. That we just need to convince people, uh, first of all, awaken their understanding to these possibilities that we've been stuck in this matrix, but show them a way of creating true communities that will work in coherence with the omniverse. And when we convince, say, the council leaders, the mayors, whatever, if we convince them to get on board and to give up the old paradigm that we've had. Then if we get enough people on board, we can make a rapid change, not a slow one. It's been slow trickle till now. I want to see a rapid change happening. And I think, you and I are getting older. We're all getting older. We have a certain time. We can extend our lives, but I think we make the most of our time right now in convincing the policymakers, and a two-pronged effort to convince them and just make our own communities at a grassroots level. Let the community see how they work, and they come and see how things work, and people that are living a different quality of life, unimpeded by electronic interference and moving forward to a sustainable life. I think that this two-pronged effort will make a massive, huge change worldwide. I'm planning to come and see you out in California to see your pilot project, and then let's bring it to you. I'm in Europe. Let's bring it to Europe, and I will learn from you your understanding of your technologies and your philosophy as well. It's a philosophy. It's all intertwined. And so once that's exactly. So once we can be enthusiastic ambassadors for your understandings, then we can infect other people and get them on board and make this change that we're all hoping to make for the near future.
That's wonderful. And as we were talking about all this great stuff, I'm drinking a Starbucks drink with a plastic straw. But I did buy I did buy my paper straw that's nicely wrapped in a single-use plastic bag. So I'll tell you, we're not there yet, but we want to be. We definitely have to have an alternative, Fernando. And what you've done is you've showed us there's an alternative, not just any alternative. You showed us something really, really special and wonderful, and that's why I was so excited about. Let me just ask Fernando now at this point, if you had any final comments for our viewers now, because we will have you back on the GoldFish Report. There's so much more to talk about, and I'm sure our viewers are going to have a lot of questions, and I do encourage our viewers to please ask questions, leave them in the comments section, and I'm also going to put contact information for Fernando in this as much as he wants. I know he doesn't have a cell phone, but if anybody who's a developer, anybody who's in real estate, anybody who has an interest in wanting to improve the quality of life for people on this planet, this is the person, this is the go-to person. This is where you start at home. So Fernando, what would you like to leave with our viewers before we
this August we begin the funding process. We are inviting developers, as you mentioned, technology companies that are wanting to build green products, and also brands that want to align with sustainable development to participate as founding sponsors, because sustainability projects cannot be invested in the old way.
Yes.
You have to contribute money and be part of the process. The first shift that I invite our audience to contemplate is the healing process of your own life, your own body, your own childhood, all of the things that are sabotaging you right now from manifesting. Because the whole point of the Vossahedron is to manifest from thought. I had a thought of a house that is a ship, and I'm building it. That is a living miracle of consciousness. And
Truly.
Heal everything. Heal your family, heal water, heal your pets, heal everything in your visual field.
Right.
I'm healing architecture. I'm healing electricity. I'm healing the way we create water, we grow food, we build cities.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that not only can we build something that's renewable and sustainable, but something that is actually healthy and good for us to live in. And that's just, it is, we have to expand our thinking, and we have to demand more from, we really have had, we're kind of stagnant in technology, to be honest with you. I mean, aside from another cell phone, another version of a cell phone, as we really don't have any new technology that humans that are the average person gets to benefit from. And it's about time. So
and to
Fernando,
me, those technologies that you mentioned are the anomaly. They are the pseudoscience. To me, cell phone communication is the pseudoscience. The real science is mental telepathy, intuition, astral travel, remote viewing.
That's the real science.
Right. Well,
we don't need the internet.
Right. Well, these are all the things that they don't want us to know. They don't want us to have access to. And when they even weaponize.
Well, surprise, we know.
We know.
Surprise, we know more than the Masons.
Too late.
We know
Exactly.
more than the secret societies right now. We've surpassed the hidden knowledge that was
Yeah.
kept from us. We've already gone beyond it.
Fantastic.
Right.
We just have to continue this conversation because
Thank you, Fernando.
the more we
We know
talk
it.
about this, the more it's going to be we're planting the seeds in the consciousness of the viewers so that they can start saying, hey, I want that for me. And that's all it takes. So,
Right.
Fernando, thank you so much. What a pleasure it has been.
Thank you.
I tell
Wonderful.
you, I was so excited,
I got to turn on the lights in the studio. It's getting all dark here.
Yeah, you're getting dark, but we can see you okay. It's a little dark, but you have the light right on you, so
It's
we
mysterious.
can.
It's good.
You look mysterious. You do.
And of course, I want to let people know that all the images are sanitized that I shared. They don't reveal how things work. But
Well,
those things will be shown soon.
fair enough.
And
Fair
what
enough.
will happen when we have a fully working prototype in
Yeah.
2019 of a Vossahedron, it will change the world.
Fantastic.
One
sure that
dome will change the planet.
I'm sure that it will. I'm sure.
Thanks for sharing this with us.
It's going to
Thank
be
you.
like a lymph node that starts to clean the ley line energy. I'm
That's
sure
exactly.
it will be.
Oh, Louisa, you guys are you know, it's so fun to be with people. I don't even have to convince with you. I want everybody to have access to a healing house. It doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
Vossahedron. You know, there's 1,000 different geometries I've looked at.
There's so many ways. That's
Yeah.
right.
No, I definitely see the
All right.
functionality of it acting that way. So, look, Steve, thank you so much for being with us. I know you're jet lagged and you're over in Malaysia.
Yeah.
So, thanks for spending the time with us. I knew you'd love this. So, it was great having
Yeah. Thank you. It was great to
Thank
be
you
here.
both for your
Yeah.
insights, and I am honored to be in the company of so many visionaries that have been on the GoldFish Report.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Fernando. We can't wait to have you back. So, thank you again,
Yeah.
folks.
This is my kind of TV right here.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Make
That's
sure
right.
you send me the contact information that you'd like for viewers to have. Like if there's developers or real estate
All right.
How they get in touch
or
with you.
manufacturers of raw material, people who just let me know because if we want to connect you. That's what we really
Right.
want to do.
If you are search Fernando Vossa in YouTube, all of my lectures, including the Vossahedron
Right.
interviews, everything is online.
VOSSA. Vossa. Yeah.
VOSSA. And if
Yep.
you feel so motivated, you want to contribute to this work and become a founding sponsor,
Right.
Vossahedron@gmail.com is my PayPal. That is
Okay.
the organization and the funds we're going to be using for this prototype.
Well, we're hoping that the funds are going to be large enough PayPal won't accept them. So we're hoping that you're going to have to make some other accommodations for that. But
My dream is to
they
have
can
people
contact you.
reach out and say, Vossa, bring your team of visionaries. We want to take you under our wing. We want to make this happen. I want to see a Vossahedron land in front of people's lobbies in their corporations, so they can experience it.
The city of Vossa.
Fantastic.
Let's have a city of Vossa. I live it. I mean,
Vossa Nation is
that's
called.
the Vossa Nation. There we
Vossa
go.
Nation.
So folks, we're going to have this information in the description section. This has been an incredible interview. I hope it's planted some seeds in your own thoughts, heart, soul, and consciousness about what you really want. And just the idea that these are things that you can even have, that there's somebody thinking of this and ready and willing and able to make this for you, and that you can have this kind of health and you can have this kind of regeneration and renewability, that this is possible. And don't let the bureaucrats block this with red tape. Let's demand this. Let's start this. Let's not wait for permission. We need to make sure that nothing's going to block humanity from having better technology, better quality of life. And that's all I have to say, but we have to do it ourselves. So as I always say, it's up to us. So again, thank you so much, Fernando. It's a pleasure. Steve, it's been good to see you. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.
Woohoo!